Testing, testing. Can you hear
Hello?
me?
Hello? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm
Cool.
excited.
Me too. Let's go.
Whew, what a week it's been.
Truly. I'm Alex.
And I'm Emily.
You want it, we got it. We're bringing you the top news and pop culture stories you need to be in the know.
So let's get started.
Okay, so I don't know how we're already at this time in the year. It all happened so fast. But the Democratic National Convention was this week. And honestly, to me, it just seems like yesterday Elizabeth Warren was destroying everyone in the Democratic debates. But, we'll move past that. It's official. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are officially our Democratic nominees for president and vice president. And Kamala Harris made history as the first Black woman and first person of Asian descent to be nominated on a national ticket for a major party. And by the way, I feel like a lot of people are saying her name wrong. It's Kamala.
Not Kamala.
Okay.
True.
Not Kamala, it's Kamala. Okay, so the DNC included speakers like Obama, Dr. Jill Biden, AOC, Elizabeth Warren, and more. There was a lot of criticism surrounding the fact that someone like Mike Bloomberg was asked to speak. But Julian Castro, the only Latino Democratic candidate this time around, was not. He actually spoke about this to NPR, and he was saying only 3 of the 35 speakers who spoke were Latino, and there were no Native Americans or no Muslim Americans asked to speak. And something interesting that I also wanted to take note of, there were a few Republicans this time, which is kind of unprecedented, to speak in support of Biden at the DNC. John Kasich, who was the former governor and a GOP candidate in 2016, was one of them. And he said, quote, "In normal times, something like this probably would never happen, but these are not normal times."
I mean, he's not wrong there.
Yeah.
I think it's inevitable, the divide that this country has seen in the past almost 4 years, which is insane that we even got here.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's about what party you're in per se anymore. I think it's just about your more like what you stand for, what you believe for, and what you think is right from wrong. And it doesn't really matter if you're a Republican, you're a Democrat. It's more about like what's happening in this country, in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinions, is not correct. And we're going down this really terrible path, and it's going to be harder to come back from that path the longer Trump stays president. So I feel like that's part of the reason people are supporting Joe Biden. And I also think another reason is Joe's very moderate. So I feel like it probably wouldn't be the same if it was an Elizabeth Warren or a Bernie Sanders, because they're not moderate at all. So I feel like it would be a little bit harder because Republicans would really see the repercussions if they were to support a Bernie or an Elizabeth opposed to a Joe who's more down the middle.
Totally. And I think that's so important. I mean, in recent times, it hasn't seemed like the president is this like uniting of America, and that's kind of what it's supposed to be, right? And I know like there's different opinions on both sides, but you're right, Biden is kind of trying to be that moderate, but he is working with people like Bernie, and he is working with people like Elizabeth Warren and AOC to kind of unite the party, which is something we really need.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that. So we're going to go on to our next topic, which is
awesome.
Ellen.
God, my favorite topic of recent.
So where do I start with Ellen? Okay, so this has kind of been going on for, I want to say like a month or two. So it all started with a BuzzFeed and Variety report, and they both kind of came out with 2 different articles, and it was filled with lots of allegations of racial insensitivity, sexual misconduct, and other problems in the work environment. Basically, they're saying the Ellen show was a toxic place to work. So at first, it did not go well. A lot of people actually came out. A lot of former employees came out and spoke to BuzzFeed. Some were anonymous, some weren't, and they were just saying their bad experiences at Ellen. Most of them were towards the producers. None of them so far have really been directed at Ellen. So Warner Brother heard all this. Of course, it did an investigation. And coming out of that investigation, they fired 3 senior producers. Executive producer Ed Glavin, Kevin Lehman, and co-executive producer Jonathan Norman. So they were all fired. And then investigators also did an investigation about racial injustice, because that was one of the things a lot of coworkers said they saw at the Ellen show. And the investigation says that there was no proof of racism, but there is a diversity issue. So in response, Ellen promoted their resident DJ Twitch to co-executive producer. And then coming out of that too, the Ellen show just gave their staff more benefits for PTO, for days that they can take off as kind of a response to all of this. Ellen hasn't officially come out with a statement to the public, but she has addressed her staff during Zoom calls, saying that she didn't really realize that there was such a big problem going on. And there was some comments about, like, the producers were saying they can't look at her in the eye, and she just basically was like, I didn't know that was a thing. Like, of course you can look at me in the eye, and that she's going to really take matters into her own hands to make it a better place to work. But, I mean, lot to uncover here. What do you think, Alex?
I mean, I worked in the entertainment industry for a little more than a year, and it was absolutely notorious, that workplace being known to have a toxic culture and to not be good to its employees.
Yeah.
So this doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I mean, it's very telling to me, it's just not good. I feel like it's also interesting, like, oh, Ellen's this be nice to each other, like, figure, and that everyone sees as this kindness figure, but I mean, like, it starts with people who aren't celebrities, right? Like, the people she tells this to are very hand-selected, where it's not like you have to... It starts at home, really, and it starts in the workplace.
Yeah, and do you think they've done enough, or do you think they've done what's necessary? I mean, first they fired the 3 producers, which I think great. Then they promoted Twitch when they came out saying they have a diversity problem, they're going to work on it, and then they gave them more benefits. Do you think, obviously I don't personally know Twitch, but watching the Ellen show, I think he's great and contributes so much to the show and such a positive energy, and in my opinion, I do think he deserved a promotion, but I think he should have gotten the promotion regardless, not just because they have a diversity issue and now they're trying to get good PR for it.
Totally, I agree, and I think it's something we need to see a report, like, how's the diversity lie within their whole organization and within the whole Ellen show, and kind of how are they going to hire further? Like, how are they going to change their hiring practices after the fact? And then they kind of have to, like, I saw some of the benefits they're offering, like, 5 extra vacation days, and, like, your birthday is off. It's like, that's it? Like, come on. Like, yeah, exactly.
They can take mental health days, like, thanks.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
finally, like, yeah, that should have been in place sooner. So it's like, it's hard for me to give a kudos to them when this is stuff that should have been in place sooner. So I don't know. I'll be really interested to see, but it doesn't surprise me. Me personally, I would love to see this all just be a new host in a new environment.
Good point. And actually kind of segueing a little bit, but do you think it's interesting that none of her celebrity friends have come out to defend her or to even say anything about it? I mean, obviously her wife Portia came out and said something. She's her wife. She was going to say something. But why do you think that is? I mean, part of the reason is it because no one has actually come out and said Ellen's mean? It's always been towards the producer, so her friends maybe don't feel like they have to defend her because none of the accusations are against her? Or do you think her friends are like, well, Ellen has been mean, but we just can't say that publicly because we'll get yelled at or something?
Totally. Well, I was going to say it's weird because Katy Perry and Ashton Kutcher both did make statements, but it's just like, I mean, that's
just two.
It's just like, yeah, it's 2, 1, and 2. It's like, you're on the show. You're, of course, going to get this star treatment. You're not the people who are working with her every day. You're the people who show up, get an interview, get some, I don't know, food from the set, and then leave. So it's just, I don't know. I would love to see someone new. I think Ellen did a lot for kind of, I mean, being a talk show host and being part of the LGBTQ plus community. She did revolutionize kind of what that was for a lot of people. But I think at this point, we need someone new.
Yeah, I agree. To finish this off, I feel like Ellen's time is coming. I think she's kind of wanted out of the show for a minute, in my personal opinion. But I don't think she's going to go just yet. I feel like she's going to do another season or 2 to make sure the season ends off right, because she has worked very hard to get to this point. You know, it was very hard when she came out as a lesbian a while ago. So I don't think she's just going to close the show when it's getting bad press. So I think she's going to do another 2-3 years, cap it off on a great note, and then just, like, leave.
Totally. So I think so, too.
All right. So we're switching gears again to another wild topic. The college admission scandal.
I
Yikes.
mean.
So it's kind of crazy to think that we've been talking about this now for a year, I think. That's how long this has been dragged on. So Lori Loughlin and her husband were finally charged for the college admission scandal. So I'm going to break it down for you. So her and her husband, Massimo Giuliani, paid $500,000 via consultant Rick Singer to get their daughters into USC. Their younger daughter is Olivia Jade, the very well-known YouTuber and influencer. So back in May, Lori Loughlin pleaded guilty to a single count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and mail fraud. The sentence was agreed as part of her plea deal. Lori Loughlin also was ordered to pay $150,000 and serve 2 years of supervised release and perform 100 hours of community service. So 2 months in federal prison, she has to surrender by November 21st. Her attorney is asking that she be allowed to serve the sentence at a federal facility in Victorville, California, which is, I believe, the same place where Felicity Huffman served her sentence. Okay. Her husband, Massimo, was sentenced to 5 months in prison. The reason he got a higher sentence is because he had a more active role in the college admission scandal. He was the one really talking to the main guy, setting this whole thing up, and Lori kind of took more of a side on it. So, what do you think? What do you think of the charges?
I mean, it's so hard, right? Because, yeah, they deserve punishment for what they did. Obviously, I don't agree with prisons in general, but that's a whole nother, conversation. Something interesting I saw on Twitter from Charlotte Clymer. She tweeted, Crystal Mason, a black mother of 3, is currently serving 5 years in prison because she cast a vote in Texas in 2016 without knowing those with a prior felony are ineligible. Lori Loughlin just got 2 months for intentionally conspiring to commit wire and mail fraud. So I do think, clearly this whole conversation surrounds privilege. To do what they did and to get away with it in the way they're getting away with it. 2 months in the grand scheme of things really is nothing. For what they committed. And
she's not going to serve the 2 months. You almost never, for something like this, you're not going to serve the whole time. She's probably going to serve a month. Her husband's probably going to maybe do 2 or 3 months. A month in your life, maybe if you do 2, would be it's not a big deal. But I totally agree with you. There are people who have done smaller things and are in jail for a lot longer. Not even felonies, even sometimes. And half of the time it's people of color. So in my mind, I think it's total BS that's happening. At the same time, though, part of me is the whole reason this is happening is because people of privilege paid money to get their kids into a very well-known school. For her, it was USC. There were tons of schools on here, all over the country. And I feel like it kind of would have been a little bit better if part of her sentencing or whatever was to pay $150,000 to a grant that can let 2 people go to a school that you technically cheated them from going.
Totally.
I feel like that would have been a way better thing to do, especially because we pay for them to go to jail or prison. We're paying for it.
1,000%.
And we're paying for this long-ass trial that took a year because she didn't want to go to jail.
Okay, I want to ask, back when this news dropped in 2019, what was your initial reaction?
I was pissed. Because I was waitlisted from USC.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Not the years that they were going. I'm older than them, not by a lot, but
let's be clear.
But I was pissed because also I went to school through public grants because of my parents didn't make a lot of money. So it's just frustrating to think they can pay this much money because they have so much money to get into an amazing school, but people like me and you and so many other kids across the country are working their butts off to get into a decent school. And it also frustrates me because Olivia Jade allegedly didn't really want to go to college. Her parents were telling her you're going to college because we didn't get this opportunity and we want you to have this opportunity, so you're going.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's so insane. I agree with you. I was in the same boat for getting into college. I decided on San Diego State, which was in my hometown, just money-wise, and then I was very lucky that because of my situation, grants paid for my school. So I didn't have to worry about, luckily, anything like that. But had I gone to a different school, I mean, there's people in debt for their whole lives because of their undergraduate career. And this is like having that money to get them in and get them in to be on the crew team, which is also quite interesting. Yeah, I was like, I was truly speechless. I remember because I was working at E! News at the time, and I was sitting there, and I was just reading this whole thing, and I'm like, honestly, a lot of people's reactions was just like, the fact that this stuff like this is just now coming out when, like, there's generations and generations of people who are not as well known doing the exact same thing, which is unfathomable to me. Like, I can't even imagine it, and obviously we can't because we went to a state school and everyone's in a pretty similar situation to us, at least of who we know. Totally.
But one other question I wanted to ask you. So what do you think of Olivia Jade's situation in this? So new documents came out from the trial saying that she knew about the whole thing. So up until now, her parents were saying, like, our kids didn't know, they weren't really involved, like, they weren't involved. But now they're saying Olivia Jade actually did know, and that she helped them, her parents, from not getting caught by one of her high school counselors. And so, not a good look for Olivia, not a good look for her parents, and, it's sketch.
That's so hard for me because, like, I mean, she was 17 probably at the time, like...
She was a minor, I think.
What can you, like, my question is, I wish I knew more of the situation, right? Like, how's her relationship with her parents? Like, was this, like, her idea first? Like, oh, I want to go to USC? Like, I mean, her sister was the same situation, right? At USC.
She went to USC, too.
So, like, I wonder if it was kind of her doing, or it's like she had to. Like, could she say no to her parents? Like, if her parents had this, like, dream of her to, like, pursue this thing that they never were able to do, could she have said no?
I think it was the latter. I think it, like what you said after. Like, I think I watched one of her videos when this whole thing was going down, and one of her YouTube videos when she got to USC said something along the lines of, like, I don't really care about school. Like, I don't really want to go to school, but I have to. My parents really want me to come here. It was something along those lines. If you go on her YouTube channel, unless she's taken it down, I'm sure you can still find it. And so, from everything I've read and from that YouTube video, it appears to me like she didn't want to go. Her parents were telling her to go. And I'm also trying to put myself in, like, my 17-year-old self's mind. I wanted to go to college. Like, obviously I wanted to go to USC or San Diego State. And if my parents were to tell me, hey, you have to do X, Y, and Z, and we're going to get into USC or Harvard or what, like, your dream school or any school, I would listen to my parents. Because my parents supposedly have my best interest in their mind and at heart. So I would be like, okay, you want me to take pictures like rowing? Sure. You want me to make a fake resume? Of course. Like, whatever. Especially if they're basically forcing you to go, which is, I think, what ended up happening. Totally. So I feel like she's paid her dues in a way. I don't think it was wrong. I feel like, I mean, I don't think it was right. I don't think what they did was right. We'll never know if Olivia did it and felt really bad while she was doing it, or if she just didn't care. We'll never know. But I do feel like she's suffered so many consequences. She had, I think, like a palette with Sephora. They took that out. Her YouTube career has kind of been, she hasn't posted on YouTube for a really long time. A lot of her sponsors dropped her when this came out. And it was just because she was possibly doing something her parents told her to do. So I feel like she's definitely experienced cancel culture. And she was 17. She's super young. And I feel like the world's been mean enough to her and has definitely canceled her, and I think she's paid her dues. And she's going to grow up and hopefully move on and get her life back together.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, the part of all this that's probably the most highlight privilege of it all, perhaps, is the fact that 2, maybe 3 years from now, this won't even be a blip in our minds. Like, I bet Fuller House will be back on Netflix.
I think they just finished their final season. Sorry to break it to you.
Never mind. I don't watch that, as you can see. But, I mean, Lori Loughlin will be back on shows. Massimo maybe will go back to his Target brand. Who knows? They'll all be back. They'll all be fine. Truly, I was like, Mom, what happened to the Massimo brand at Target? And she's like, oh, it's been gone. Yeah, she was like, it's been gone before this. And I was like, oh, okay. Just checking. I was just wanted to know. But yeah, I mean, they're gonna be fine. That's the sad part, maybe. part of this all, that's, who knows? It's,
yeah.
That's the thing. That's why, like, when you said cancel culture, I'm like, okay, like, I get that, but also I personally, this is a whole nother episode also, but I don't think cancel culture exists.
I think I don't know. I don't know if I have a set opinion on it. I just don't like cancel culture.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's stupid. People make mistakes. Depending on the mistake you make. There are mistakes that have way different levels of you messed up, and you should not have said that. But I feel like we'll talk about this in another episode. But I think cancel culture's whack. Mm-hmm. But all right.
I mean, that was quite a good first episode.
I agree.
So at the end of the episode, Emily and I really want to have kind of a good news little session at the end of it. So from here forward, we will be asking for your good news of the week. But since it's just us this time, Emily, why don't you kick it off? What's your good news of the week?
I should have thought about this before. It's Friday and I got paid. Woo!
Yes! I know.
And I'm happy to be here.
Yes, I was going to say, my good news is being here and recording this, because I'm very excited. It's been a long time coming, I think.
Yeah, and for a little background on Alex and I before we log off, we actually had a radio show together in college, our sophomore year, right?
Yeah, I think we had a show together. Junior year, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah,
this has definitely been... we've done so many different projects together, and it was something that we needed to kick off sometime now.
And
so we're
it's
very
something
excited
that
about it.
Really pulls in both of our interests, and I think it's going to be great and really fulfilling. So hopefully people learn something and get a good start to their week.
So please go follow us on Instagram at What a Week Show, on Twitter at What a Week Show _ because, you know, we couldn't get that without the underscore. And then, Emily, why don't you tell us where they can find us on YouTube?
So on YouTube, just go to What a Week Show on YouTube, and you can subscribe, make sure you comment and like and all the things, put post notifications on. I'm new at this, okay? I'll become a better YouTuber soon.
Yeah, we'll be Olivia Jade all this YouTubers pretty soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
I'm
I'll
Alex.
see you next time. And I'm Emily, signing off.